my very great pleasure to welcome you here to a kind of informal chat with four of our, I suppose, brightest film talents. They all screened films in the 2020 Virgin Media Dublin International Film Festival, and I wanted to really check back in to see how they were getting on, to see what was happening with the films, to see what they maybe had been watching during the pandemic, and obviously to kind of get some sense of when we'll be able to see their films again on the big screen. Just a tiny note, I suppose, about the 2020 festival. It went brilliantly. It was absolutely fantastic, and it outrun a pandemic by 5 days. So I'm very proud of that, as we've watched pretty much the landscape flatten for film exhibition and film festivals. But one of the more exciting elements of the program this year, I think, was the Aer Lingus Discovery competition. We had 13 nominees from all across the Irish film community, and we had a great jury who gave so much of their time to watch so many films of all of, as I said, the nominees. And I'd like to just give a shout out to them. Producers Rebecca O'Flanagan, Ruth Cody and Jason Foran, and director Claire Dix and editor Tony Cranston, because I know that they actually had a really hard job to do, but I was really delighted, as I said, when we announced the winners on our final Sunday. And in a way, I suppose tonight is really an opportunity to kind of catch up. Everybody's had 4 months to catch their breath since that closing Sunday. So we do have the opportunity, I suppose, for you to send in questions. So please do that, and we'll try to get to them as many as possible. And as I said, without further ado, I'd like to welcome, as I said, our fantastic Discovery winners. So start up, we have writer, director, producer Paddy Slattery. We have director Clare Byrne. We have actor Dónall Héalaí, and we have editor and director Cara Holmes. And I think what we'll probably do, as I said, is kind of focus in the beginning around the film that we showed in the festival, but obviously broaden that out. So maybe I might ask you, Paddy, to start by talking a bit about the origins and background to Broken Law. And I mean, obviously it was one of the kind of hits of the film festival, but obviously kind of got caught in a holding pattern. So take us back to the heady days. You actually had a funding campaign for it, didn't you? Was you Indiegogo for the first bits of money into it?
Yeah, I actually wrote the first draft of the script in 2009, and parked it, and then went on an adventure to learn actually how to make films. So in 2016, then I came back. I felt kind of ready and started to put out the feelers for producers and that kind of thing. And but yeah, I guess our first step to try and gain some financial credibility was to run an Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign, just to get our foot in the door when we were talking to private investors. Now, we did apply to Screen Ireland at the time, and rightfully so, they turned us down, because in hindsight, when I looked at that early stage of the script, it did need a lot of work that I wasn't objective enough to be able to see at that time. So a couple of years of development and stop-start, and eventually Simon Doyle, producer for Failsafe, and we decided let's do it ourselves. Let's raise the money, and at least then we'd have more freedom to be able to pull in favors and use our own crew, and also the license to be able to, I guess, be a little bit more free with what we shoot and with who we shoot, because as you know, with financiers, or at least financial institutes, there's a certain rules and regulations that you might have to adhere to in terms of procedure and cast and that kind of stuff. So we did it ourselves. So yeah, the crowdfunding campaign got us about 45 or 46,000, and I guess that gave us the confidence to go from there. And before we knew it, we were shooting in the East Wall in Dublin City it was August, September 2018. So yeah, it was a mad old journey, but we finally got there.
And how long did you shoot for?
We shot 16 days initially, and we took that cut then before Christmas. We took that cut to a few filmmaker friends that we knew and trusted, and got some feedback, and then we went back out we had to scrape a few more quid together, and we went back out in, I think it was late January, early February, and shot another 4 days of pickups. So 20 in total. But in truth, I mean, we were running and gunning, so it was, I probably shouldn't say it, but you're talking about 18 to 20 hour days. Sometimes it was crazy, but the fact that we were all on that sort of indie rush, that like everyone just literally threw their hearts and souls into it. So that's how we got it done.
And the other thing that's, I think, really interesting about it is that it felt, I mean, I was there for the world premiere, but there was a great sense of team behind it, and a lot of people that you'd worked with before. So that presumably helped you to kind of keep that kind of really tight schedule together.
Absolutely, yeah. Simon Doyle of Failsafe, Simon and Ian, they have a great pool of upcoming talent as well, including Clare. They're one of our best directors on the scene, and it's like, so literally we had a really talented pool to dip into, and luckily we were slightly flexible in terms of how we could schedule, and we were lucky in that way. And Narian Van Mel, our cinematographer, I guess a lot relied on how his schedule looked. He's extremely busy, and we knew from the outset we wanted his look in the film. So we got very, when you're making any film, there's a lot of luck involved. So we got extremely lucky when the time did feel right.
And the Guardian have a great quote, which I think you're using in your publicity. It's a headbutt of a thriller. I remember watching, and the audience were literally up. The adrenaline in the room was kind of amazing. Can you talk to me a bit about writing that and then trying to keep that as you're shooting, and then that edit, that kind of adrenaline, that kind of energy levels?
Our editor, actually, I'm glad you asked, because that was a conversation, John Desay, our editor, it's a conversation we had 2 years prior to even shooting. We were working on our soundtrack maybe 2 years before we shot as well. So John and I had an almost symbiotic relationship in terms of the pace and I guess the veracity that we wanted to charge forward. And we were also at the mercy, I guess, because we were shooting an intimate crew, very small, and we didn't have time for cranes and jibs and that kind of stuff. We knew that going the handheld kind of sort of indie realism kind of look, that also gave us the freedom to be a little bit more immediate in the drama that we wrote. So we knew, we just wanted it to keep, there's a saying, I think it was the manager for Bon Jovi, said, "Don't bore us, get us to the chorus." And that was our philosophy. We didn't want to linger too much on kitchen sink drama, but we wanted to entertain audiences. And thankfully it does feel, when people watch it, they say, "God, I can't believe that's 85 minutes. It kind of flew." And when I hear that, I'm really proud to hear that, because that was our intention. We didn't want to bore audiences. We wanted to entertain them.
Yeah, it was funny because one of the things I thought was really interesting is when I talked to Nell and Rob from Breakout, was around what cinema we'd show it in. And I always argued that it was a big mainstream Cineworld film, and I could see the look of people's faces going, "Oh God, it's the IMAX." Do you know what I mean? But with that soundtrack kicked off, it was kind of amazing, Oh
my God. Well, I'm not sure if you remember, but I was front and center
in
the IMAX there.
The front
and
row.
I felt like I was in the fucking film. I just, honest to God, there was action going on behind me.
No, it was great.
I had a 3D experience.
Yeah. No, it was absolutely great. And tell us, Paddy, you have a date now. You actually have a release date, and you have a plan, haven't you?
We have a plan, yeah. No one has a plan at this stage. COVID has a plan, and we're just riding on COVID's intentions. I know there's a tentative date outlined, August the 19th.
Okay.
But it could move. I know that at the minute the lines are being moved. So hopefully in the next day or two we'll be able to give concrete numbers and dates, because right now they're figuring that out, I think.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, I think, at least my understanding is that the movies at Dundrum are open now, and that the Lighthouse is opening in July 20th, and that I think at the end of that month is when Cineworld is back open. So basically they're all opening for you. Do you know what I mean? So they're all just getting ready and sorted, for Broken Law to come out and take over.
They must be taking your advice. It's a big, it's the big screen experience. They're signing up for.
Oh, well, look, we'll come back to that big screen experience, because I think it's something that I very definitely have been missing, but I think it's a really important part of both film festivals, but also for filmmakers to see their films on the big screen. Could I actually move to you now, Claire, and actually just talk about the two films that you have finished, done, dusted, and ready to go out? Two very, very different films. So I'm going to ask you to try and distinguish the two of them. Maybe talk maybe about Sister This first, which we showed in our shorts program.
Yeah, so you're right, they're like worlds apart from each other. But so Sister This is it was a Screen Ireland focus short, and it started off in Cork and then went to Diff in terms of its festival run. But it's a short drama. It's kind of a two-hander over the phone with two sisters, very kind of personal and candid conversation, and it started life as a play by Tracy Martin, and then she developed it into a short script, it's kind of all based around like an awkward kind of sister relationship, dependency within that relationship, and then it kind of gives a nod to the porn industry and all that kind of shame that gets wrapped up in that.
It's heartbreaking to watch. I mean, I've got two sisters, and I very, very quickly identified that kind of dynamic where they can be so honest and cruel, and at the same time there's that underlying relationship that can never really be eroded, I suppose. Can you talk to me a bit about that? Because I met Tracy during the festival. She was on our screenwriters panel, and she was talking a bit about it, but it really is perfectly kind of shaped for a film, isn't it? Because you have these two so different characters and that connection over the phone, and just one other character of the little boy.
Yeah, and thanks, because that's something we really wanted to kind of get there, that like that you can when it's a sister, you can say something really cruel and really cutting. It's that conversation with family, but then at the same time they love each other so much and they really need each other, so it kind of flip-flops and you can end up arguing and then laughing within the same breath nearly. And also that kind of weird confidence that you get from speaking over the phone rather than a face-to-face conversation with someone. So we were trying to get all that in there. And then the kid, so it's the older sister's kid, she's the one working in porn, and she's obviously adds a whole kind of sensitive dynamic to it, where you don't want, like, the viewer doesn't want the kid to hear what's going on in the conversation because it's quite upsetting. So he kind of brings that whole element to it of you're trying to protect him the whole time.
And in terms of the actors, because I was kind of really struck by the ability that they had. I mean, the film is 10 minutes long, and yet you feel like you know these characters so well. There's this kind of beautiful kind of shorthand to them. I wonder just how you manage that. They really felt fully realized, even though, as I said, you only spend a very short amount of time with them. Yeah,
I think like we did talk a lot. I talked a lot to Charlie and Jordan, and what was really nice was like they brought a lot of themselves to the character. Obviously, they're portraying experiences that they might not have experienced in their own lives, but they brought a lot of their personality to the character, which really helped. And they both kind of, from day one, like when we met, I think the first time we met, we were just trying on different gear for costume, and we spoke about like even things like accents, and we said both natural accents work really well. So stuff like that, just kind of, they were instantly sisters in my mind, which was really cool. And then when we started reading it all, they really got each other's rhythm, and that was, just worked really well. And they're both just brilliant.
And I noticed that you worked with Parallel on this film. So can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so that connection is Clare Gormley. She saw, I think she was connected with Tracy before I came on the scene, and the play that the play that the story is plucked from is called Harder, Faster, More, and it's all about different women's experiences of sex within life and in like whatever professional way or so she got talking to Tracy about adapting that into a short film, and then they saw, I think it was one of my shorts screened at the WIFT Ireland short film showcase. So they kind of saw my name through that and then approached me, and that's the parallel connection. It's all Clare Gormley, really.
And where next? I mean, I know everybody has been put on this kind of like, sort of massive pause, but where will the film be seen next?
So like at the moment we don't actually know, because it still feels like it's very much at the beginning of its festival run. There was a few kind of things that we got into that were cancelled, or festivals that were postponed, so that's kind of slowed it down a little bit, but like we're excited now to see where it's going to go next, and to see its first sort of like international day out as well, which is going to be really cool. That'll be really exciting, actually. Because I mean, I feel like it is something that really would appeal to kind of international audiences. I think it actually has this kind of really strong connection at the moment. I think that, as you said, the subjects are really dark, but the way that it deals with them, I think, is really kind of subtle. And I think it's something different too. Like it's unique in the way it's kind of told, and it's a unique perspective as well. So I think it'll, it's a nice thing to have in there.
And tell us about, which I have to say I only saw quite recently, which is Ascending Grace, which I loved. I think there hasn't been enough humor during this pandemic. So congratulations, Clare. But tell us a bit about this, and also where it is a really unusual project, isn't it? Because it's funded through Bumble.
Yeah, it's a really cool scheme, actually. I'd urge first-time filmmakers to keep an eye on this one. It's a female-only funding scheme, and it's now been opened up. So when Ascending Grace was a part of 5 films that were funded, and they get 20k sterling each, and you win based off of a script. And the year that Ascending Grace won, it was opened up to, I think, France, Germany, the UK, and Ireland. And before that, it was just the UK and Ireland. So it's brilliant, because a lot of these funding schemes for short films, you need to have already made a short film in order to get funded, whereas this one is much more of kind of like a launching pad for younger female filmmakers. So it's brilliant. And they offer a lot of support as well for all the teams that are making it. So that's where we got the funding for Ascending Grace, was through that.
And you worked with Karen. Karen wrote the script for that. So that's showing in Galway, is it?
Yeah, that's going to have its premiere in Galway. Yeah, it was Karen's script. She kind of headed the whole bit in terms of the competition. And then when she won the funding, she brought myself and Fiona Kinsella on then as director and producer. So yeah, that's going to have its premiere now in Galway online, which is exciting. And then later the same month, actually, it's in Indie Shorts, which is a part of the Heartland Film Festival. And so that'll be online, but then really excitingly, it's also going to be in a drive-through in Indianapolis. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
I have to say, I think I went to 2 screenings in the same one about 2 weeks ago, and I don't think I've done that in 100 years, but I think drive-throughs are fantastic, but the shorts idea is brilliant.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Absolutely. And this is because it's a bit of fun as well. It's nice to think of people watching it together and having a laugh, because it's just a bit of crack, which you kind of need sometimes in shorts.
Yeah, absolutely. Not just shorts, everything, as far as I could see. I've been watching so many films at Cannes last week and submissions, and good Jesus, could somebody please make a 90-minute comedy as opposed to a 4-hour film about poverty and despair? It's just like, seriously, my plea to the filmmaking community of the world is please make it funny. Thanks, Clare. Donal, can I move on to you? Because I'm really curious about Arracht. I mean, I heard fantastic things about this film out of the FLA last year. That was, I think there was a screening there and everybody started saying, oh, this is fantastic, this is great. And then the next thing was Tallinn in Estonia was its world premiere. I think it was in competition then. And it just, for me, I thought it was one of the films that really got, really cruelly upset, because it felt like that trajectory had been building kind of really nicely. You'd got fantastic reviews for the film and for you personally for your performance. So it's kind of it's really exciting that, you know, hopefully with everything opening up, that we'll get a chance to see it on the big screen. Can you, I mean, I don't know if you're, well, hopefully you are happy enough just to tell us a bit about what Arracht is for those people who don't know. It's a fantastic first feature, which is one of the things I think Tom's done a fantastic job. But I think for you, it's a real breakthrough role, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks very much, Grainne. I guess first, good to be here. And yeah, I mean, Arracht is, it's a film. Arracht is the Irish word for monster. And Arracht is set in Connemara in 1845. And I guess it tells the story of a man's struggle for sanity and survival, you know, during the Great Famine. The film follows the character of Coleman Sharkey, who I play. And he's a character who's kind of haunted and hunted for a crime he didn't commit, which leaves him in quite a dark space until he meets a little girl who ultimately brings him back to life. So just as you alluded to, it's a film directed and written by Tom Sullivan. It's Tom's debut feature. And yeah, it's been very well received so far. From Tallinn, I actually missed the world premiere because I was shooting, but by all accounts it was a fully, you know, packed theatre, and went down a treat. And then yeah, Dublin was incredible. You know, DIF was an amazing experience for us. Again, there was a great crowd in the house that night, and we were fortunate enough to pick up Best Irish Film at DIF, and then also at Glasgow. We weren't you know, we weren't expecting, truthfully, because there was incredible films that played at that festival as well. But yeah, you know, COVID is such an interesting thing. In one way, it feels like we were just ascending, and then this happened. But then in another, it's exciting to think that, you know, hopefully sometime in autumn there'll be a national release. It's actually playing at the Galway Film Fleadh now. On July 12th, so tickets are available for that, I think, online and all the rest of it. But yeah, it was, I mean, personally, it was a privilege to work with Tom again. I had worked with him on a short about 7 years ago, and so when he approached me with the script, I just know that, like, he tells very human stories, and I guess this period of Irish history is one that we're really beginning to kind of unpack, I think, kind of collectively. In these last few years, and so to be a part of kind of the visual conversation of that was something I was very interested in. I was also very conscious of not fucking it up, you know, because you're like an Irish actor making a film about the famine. There's a bit of pressure there, but you know, I felt looked after. You know, we shot it really kind of very close to where I grew up, and so it was a very close to the heart story, and you know, just a real privilege to be part of, Grainne, to be honest with you.
And the Irish language aspect element, I feel, was crucial. I mean, I know that it was one of the reasons why I was delighted that it was able to be part of our tour, and that it was actually a possibility to kind of share the film around some of the Access Cinema venues, was the idea that, you know, we should be supporting and promoting as much as possible an Irish language feature. I think that's a really interesting kind of element that in a way we haven't been talking about enough nearly about in terms of Arracht.
Yeah. I mean, I guess to the story, it's central to the authenticity of the piece. You know, ultimately we're telling the story of our ancestors, and that was the language they spoke at that time. So it definitely adds a sense of authenticity, and I think a depth as well, you know, in terms of kind of the soul of the film. But also it's interesting because there's a very interesting, like in terms of foreign language film at the moment, like there seems to be a wave of, like, you know, from Parasite to Unorthodox to like this opening of kind of audiences, and it's curious to see where Irish language fits into that, and so the timing of that is great. You know, it was a film that was made under Cine 4, which was a scheme that was Screen Ireland funded, and TG Cahir and BAI. So yeah, it's definitely exciting to be part of that wave, you know, and I think there's more films emerging from that funding scheme as well. So.
And can you talk a bit? I mean, I remember seeing it actually in the IFI in a very, very cold winter's morning, with a Swedish colleague of mine, and he was just in pieces afterwards. And one of the things is he just felt that you could feel that the whole, so much of the pain of the kind of community you could see literally on your body, and that the I suppose the kind of punishment that you took as an actor in the film felt so connected so much with the viewers when I saw it. I mean, for you, in terms of that character and preparing for it, you obviously lost weight. You obviously had to kind of get into a particular kind of mindset. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because of the budget, like it was 1.2 million shot in 20 days. So like to say it was lean, no pun intended, it was lean. And so we couldn't afford to show, you know, masses of kind of starving people. It just wasn't realistic for us. So I knew very early on that the famine was going to be really through the prism of Coleman's body, like, and that was such an amazing journey. I mean, just between the fasting element of it and a real gift as an actor to have that in, you know, because you're always looking for an in. And for me, it was the physical part of it, you know. So by the time we got to shooting, I guess to an extent, I definitely felt like I'd gone as close as I could come to trying to experience what it might have been like, you know, within the parameters I was working within, you know. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I hope that it added something to the piece. And again, it comes back to integrity, you know.
Yeah.
Working with the story, that's that delicate. You just want the respect that it deserves, you know. So
no, I think I'm not just saying this because I'm obviously on, you know, a conversation with you, Donal, but it's a fantastic performance, and I think it'll absolutely be recognized in awards and other forms of recognition in the autumn when the film comes out. And can I move to you, Cara? Because I have to say I watched the film again this afternoon, and I kind of just had this smile because there's a great line about freedom, and I kept thinking back over the films of yours that I've seen, and kind of thought, God, it feels like there is that kind of thread about kind of like a kind of story that allows itself to go in different directions. And that line that she says, what is it, about collages and non-linear, and I thought, oh, this is really interesting. As we've talked about this before, but I actually met this project in a different incarnation, and I have to say I kind of was really intrigued by Una Doherty at that initial meeting, and it was so nice to see the film that you made kind of had that kind of that kind of dynamic presence that she has, kind of captured on film, you know, and that unique way of kind of dance performance. It's kind of a beautiful kind of portrait of an artist, do you know what I mean, as much as a film in its own right. Can you talk about that relationship with Una and how you worked on the film together?
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose I saw Hope Hunt at the Dublin Fringe Festival in like 2016, which feels like a very long time ago now. And I think, just as you were saying, you know, I you know, as a performer and as a dancer, I had never seen a performance like it before. Like, you know, I've done very little kind of film in dance or dance on film, and yeah, I suppose as a performance and kind of the themes that she was working with, you know, in terms of identity and, you know, and freedom and kind of challenging stereotypes and all these kind of things, I just thought, you know, who was this person and how do I get to meet her, basically? And you know, on her website, you know, she has this, or she had, maybe she took it off since I got in touch, but she said she was open to collaboration. So I just thought, right, that's my in. I'll, you know, we'll meet for a coffee and yeah, and I suppose kind of working with her, it was, you know, mainly through kind of conversations and, you know, kind of following her journey on different shows that she was working on as well. But when it came to it, it made sense to work on the Hope Hunt performance piece and to kind of, you know, dive into her mind and her creative process, and you know, working with Zlata in Visible Thread as well. You know, I know Zlata went to see the show at the same time, and you know, that's where the connection was. And Zlata has produced a lot of dance films, so it just made total sense that we kind of, you know, started that conversation together. But many hours of audio interviews and filmed interviews with Una. Yeah, that's
And is that where the voiceover came from those interviews, or is that part of the piece?
No, that was from kind of interviews and conversations that I recorded. Yeah. Yeah, the kind of the performance elements then were filmed separate. But when it comes to her and kind of the portrait, and that was all kind of filmed interviews, and you know, just throwing on, you know, the Zoom recorder and like letting rip basically. So
it's funny because I was thinking it has a lovely kind of companion piece nearly to Broken Law, because it kind of opens with kind of this car stopping, and then you open the boot, and then this dancer kind of rolls out.
Okay.
And it, you know, it kind of switches kind of a genre. Do you know what I mean? You have your overhead drone shots, and then it kind of pulls down, and then it moves into a completely different kind of like space.
We should do that, Paddy.
Let's talk to the distributors. We could have it open for us.
And Cara, where is the film going now? Where is it going to be screened?
So I suppose like just after Diff, which was a brilliant screening again, you know, it was kind of like, you know, as the other guys were saying, you know, kind of full house and loads of energy and atmosphere, and you know, just a brilliant screening. And then, you know, at the time, myself and Zlata had tickets to go to New York because it was screening at Tribeca, and that was its international premiere. And just very gutted that we couldn't kind of follow it through. Like, so yeah, like, I mean, it's kind of been a bit of a dream ride for the film, I have to say. Like,
what awards everywhere.
Yeah, like it got a special mention at Tribeca, and screened at Hot Docs, and is part of the Sheffield Documentary Festival, and now Galway. And you know, yeah, like, you know, myself and Zlata just had to, you know, just kind of go to try and get our refund.
Yeah.
You know, it was really unfortunate we couldn't travel with the film, but you know, a dream at the same time to have the film screen at all those places, you know.
And because it's also kind of a documentary as much as it's a dance film, there are multiple options, I suppose, for it, and also for people who are aware of Una's work.
Yeah, no, that's it. Like, it's screening. There's a festival called Dance on Camera in New York, and that's on now or very soon. So we did a Q&A together, myself and Una, last week. So, you know, I like, it's all virtual. It just feels a bit surreal as well, because it's all happening in these places. And yeah, well, you know, I don't know really what's next, but hopefully soon we'll be able to kind of see it again on the big screen. But I know, like, you know, we've had access to kind of different film festival sites, so we've been able to kind of, you know, see who's been watching, but it's obviously not the same.
No, it's really not. And I mean, actually, on that topic, can I kind of throw it out to all of you about that idea of the big screen? I mean, obviously, the Movies at Dundrum opened, as I said, on Monday, and we're slowly getting back to that particular kind of world. I mean, it is one of those things that I think is kind of vital, is that sort of that beautiful experience of seeing something in a cinema in the dark with that big screen. And I'm kind of conscious from what you're interested in, maybe? Are there things that are coming up that you are interested in, whether they're Irish or international, that you're curious about? And are there, I mean, even your own plans to see films in cinemas over the next couple of weeks or beyond? Who wants to take that? Anyone? Hold on, is it Claire was saying she's going to see Tenet?
I actually forgot that Tenet was coming out very soon, but I probably will be going to it. Yeah, I will be, and I'll be excited to see Broken Law now on the big screen, since I missed it at Diff, so that's exciting as well, to go see an Irish film. And then
you're just saying that.
Sorry, no, I'm not just saying that.
Let me highly recommend Arracht, because I was lucky to see Arracht during the lockdown, and I cannot wait to see that in the cinema when it comes out. It's absolutely powerful. And Dónall, your performance, it transcends performance, honestly. I'm not bullshitting you on this. It was absolutely gripping. I wouldn't shut up about Here to the Family, so looking forward to going out and seeing that when it comes out.
Thanks so much, Paddy. Well, I have my ticket bought, Paddy, for Broken Law. All my films.
This is getting very circular now, to be honest. I was trying to.
In a diff, because you were playing, I think, right after Arracht, and I was so I'm super excited to see it, man. I heard great things, so yeah, like right back.
That was me saying all the great things.
It wasn't.
Well, listen, I'll tell you, the lockdown would have been a longer 3 months for me if we didn't get that premiere at Dublin, because talking about the big screen experience, that was the reward I was promising our crew, our cast, our family for 10 years. And if we didn't get it, if we had to shut down before a premiere, oh my God, I would have been an unhappy camper for the duration of it.
It's funny, one of the things that I've noticed, I literally, as I said, I went to drive-ins, was just the idea of going to see something that I couldn't stop, that there was a time that it started and that I had to be there, and then we watched it and then we left. And I don't know whether this lockdown has imposed this ability to pause forever, and that you can, go out or come back to the next day or whatever like that. But I love in some ways the formality of going to the cinema. And I'm hoping that when we all go back, one of the things is that everybody will be on time. Everybody will be just at the right distance away from me. The film will start, it'll look fantastic, and it will very definitely be bigger than the screens that I've been looking at for the last 4 months, which I have to say are just way too small. And we've had a couple of questions in just about origins and about people where they've started out and their training and maybe mentors. I don't know if there's anyone who had a particular mentor or a particular kind of experience, either film school or training, that they wanted to kind of mention as something that they would kind of recommend or suggest.
I just as a suggestion, like, I haven't really had a mentor as such, but what I found like nearly more valuable was finding like my peers that were at the same kind of level and just wanted to make stuff. And so like a few years ago, myself, Emma Wall and Joe Halpin, and then subsequently now there's like a load of different filmmakers, and like we've just learned so much from each other and constant support. So that's for me where like I've been to film school and everything, and that was great. I needed to learn how to make a film, and that was brilliant. But like I'll always say that the most I've learned is in like 3 years of just going out with a camera and just making stuff with your friends and with people who really wanted to get better and better at it. Yeah, that's definitely been the most kind of learning for me.
And Donal, you were at Bow Street, I think, weren't you?
Yeah. I was, and definitely want to give a shout out. It was called the Factory when I attended. It was kind of early on in its formation.
Oh, I remember it well.
Yeah, down on Barrow Street, but Bow Street, it was an amazing community, and it was also an amazing environment to train in. For me, I was really drawn to screen acting, and I think that's what separates it from other programs, is its attention to screen acting. Shimmy runs a great shop, and you know, at the time, Maureen Hughes, the casting director, was working there as well. So it was very practical training. But there was a coach or a teacher there called Jerry Grinnell, and certainly his philosophy, I suppose, has been something that stayed with me as I continue to work. And just waking up every morning, you know, I can't recommend training enough, because it's such a privilege really for 1 year or for however long it is to wake up and play or act or imagine for the day, you know. Just the whole 10,000 hour rule thing. I think there's something to it. So I had great times there, and I think it's exciting to see how it's coming on actually now in Ireland. Even, you know, it's really grown as a school.
That's one of the interesting things I think that's happened, isn't it, during the pandemic, is the number of kind of training courses and structures that have kind of come online. I suppose I know that I think Bow Street is actually getting its own kind of strand in the Screen Ireland kind of like funding and Screen Skills to set up a mentoring program. So there's lots of these kind of initiatives that's probably been fast tracked, I think, because of the kind of situation that we're in now. So it feels like there's been a lot of people kind of have been galvanized around the kind of time that they've actually had.
Just the talent that's come from there, Grainne, like even my class, Shauna Kerslake, Niamh Algar, you know, the list goes on. Like, you know, there's just so many people who've come through there who have really, who are doing incredible, you know. So it's, I certainly had a great time there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree, actually. The mentorship thing that seems to be coming through, that I think that's something that I might have missed really at the start of my career, you know, just that kind of having that kind of solid guidance. I didn't go to film school, you know, I have a degree in biochemistry, so I was kind of, you know, launched. I came the very long way into, you know, and I think mentorships are hugely important, and if you can sign up to as many as you can, or, you know, even that kind of sense of just contacting somebody you really respect in the industry, because so as Claire was saying as well, you know, in terms of your support network and that being really important. And you know, and I've found like Women in Film and Television and initiatives like X-Pollinator, Cross-Pollinator just has been hugely beneficial for kind of confidence alone, you know, to kind of to have those conversations and to keep you kind of, you know, rooted in the industry as well. And just building that kind of solid network, I think is really important.
I also kind of, there's a question in here about did you have to do a lot of research into the adult film industry? And if so, did you learn anything surprising about that world that you didn't know before?
I'm guessing that's for me.
Yes, that's for you.
Well, I needed to research. I had to research porn as well for some of the characters in Broken Law. It was one of those things. I took it for the team there on that one.
We did do our research because we wanted to kind of decide in our minds what kind of porn the character of Caitlin was actually doing. And if you see the film, you'll realize that it was kind of on the more extreme end. So we were just, it was research, and so I suppose what we learned was kind of how demeaning and abusive it is, the stuff that's like super easy to access as well. So that was kind of a not so nice revelation to uncover, that it's all at your fingertips, and it's quite demeaning towards women and shocking, and it's all just so kind of available on the internet, and it doesn't seem to be very regulated. So that was kind of our research and where we pointed that character's experience with it.
The other thing that's really beautifully and very subtly done is when you put a figure on that of what it costs. Do you know what I mean? And then people can debate whether that's too much, enough, whatever. You know, it's brilliantly done. I'm conscious of kind of like time here, but I did want to find out what everybody is working on and what they're working on now. Because in a way, what we've been talking about are films that were made last year, you know, and that people, well, in some cases, were finished, shall we say, let's call it, for early 2020. And so I'm conscious about asking about what you're working on now, and as I said, how they have progressed, or if they've progressed in the last 4 months, in terms of your own kind of, you know, working process. So who wants to start with what they've been doing for the last 4 months? This feels like some kind of like, school ground check. Cara, I know that your project is really exciting, actually. It's quite well advanced. Well, you've two, don't you? Because you have Father of Cyclops, which is...
Cyborgs.
Cyborgs, sorry. Psych. That won't be the last time I will call it that. That's what's even more scary about this.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I was very lucky just in terms of kind of job wise, and I think, nearly the first day of lockdown was the first day of an edit. This is a feature documentary, The Father of the Cyborgs, and I'm going to say Cyclops now. But yeah, and that's director David Burke, and he's based in Ennis. So I've been editing remotely, and we've been working together remotely. So that's been interesting, and actually, for the most part, very positive. And it has been working out. So, I do feel lucky that, I've managed to kind of, been able to work, and actually it's been a huge distraction from the reality of events. And yeah, so I've felt very lucky about that. And just recently found out that got some development money to start working on my own feature documentary. So yeah, that's all very exciting. And yeah, so I can't wait to get stuck into that.
Is that about the phone lines? Is that project?
It's kind of around, the lesbian lines that were set up in 1979, and there were a few set up all across the country. And really, it's a film about kind of queer identity and art and performance, and I suppose kind of digging a bit deeper into kind of, the queer histories, particularly for women. And just, it's, very excited about that, actually. So I'm looking forward. I have no clue what's happening with filming and, going to the kind of the next stage of creating teasers and stuff like that. So, it's, yeah.
So where you are is both that editing project and also the kind of research for the new feature.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds lovely, actually.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds perfect. We have a question in here, which obviously supersedes mine, which says, do the filmmakers feel that your work has a central theme? Who wants to take that one?
Well, just because I've been writing a lot about it recently.
What's your central theme, Cara?
I think actually connection. And building kind of films around connection and identity for the most part as well. And I think, with this kind of the phone line idea, it'll just be an interesting way of how to kind of to build that in, and how we are all kind of looking to connect as humans, and then how to kind of build that into film as well is interesting. And freedom, actually, that you mentioned earlier, it's connection and freedom and identity.
Now that was a really good answer, everybody. So you have to beat that one. So who wants to go next now? Because we can do this as a lottery. We can just do it from the top of the screen.
I'll try.
Try.
I'll give this a go. All right. Well, we've got it's a sort of a wrestling match between loyalty and legacy. So basically, a fight between the heart and the ego, right? So our character Dave, right, who's a very dedicated guard, even his father tragically died in the line of duty, so he feels he wants to emulate his father's heroics. So he's extremely loyal to the law, but of course family then come into the equation, and so he almost has to his loyalty is kind of tested to the law, but ultimately he discovers that this idea of his heroic father was actually a fabricated lie, a sort of a legacy that was created by the Garda Síochána, just to kind of, I guess, sort of put some positive spin on an organization that needed some positive publicity at a particular time. So he sort of suddenly finds himself in a situation where, he's kind of in two minds to uphold that legacy or be loyal to himself. And so I just like that sort of that play between, because obviously family generally comes first, and then our professions and legacy second. But it wasn't Dave's journey toward discovering who he really was a little bit more complex than he had initially perceived. So I just like that little play on those two teams.
Yeah. Cool. Donal, can you trace a line through your career so far that you feel like kind of maybe it's hard?
I don't know. I guess just in keeping with Arracht, I was just thinking there, like in terms of a theme, it would probably be, I guess the wisdom of children is one. What children have to teach adults, and then the kind of survival instinct of the human spirit. And as for the rest of the career, that's a whole. I don't know, Grainne, we'll have to, I don't know.
That's a hard one, it has to be said now. I mean, I don't know who asked it, but it's a hard one. Can actually, while I have you there, Donal, can you talk a tiny bit about Shelter?
Sure, yeah.
And when we're going to see that, because that sounds like a really exciting project with Paddy.
Shelter is a film that is inspired by the novel The Thing About December by the Irish author Dónall Ryan. It's a feature film that was shot back in Carnamona, County Galway, directed by Sean Brannock. Really kind of explores rural Ireland, loneliness, and a coming of age story for a kind of guy who's 28. So we're actually back on set on Friday, which I can't wait, because
wow.
Yeah, we've a couple of days to finish it up, and it should be out then 2021, Grainne. I don't know yet as to what festivals or where, but
it'll all be back to normal by then, Donal. Do you know what I mean? It'll be business as usual basically by January. That's my plan.
Yeah.
That's great. Clare, you got to find a central theme in your 4 films.
I wish I could say female relationships, but my first 2 films only had one person in them, but was a woman. But I guess, well, with the last 2, it's definitely female relationships.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I think it's
the question easier on myself. It's definitely that.
And in terms of next projects?
So exciting. Like, I suppose what everyone's kind of turned to doing during pandemic times is like just developing new ideas. So we're working on very early development stages of both those shorts becoming series. And so that's really exciting. And then a feature film with Ruth Cody, actually, from the panel, and Lynn Ruan. So a story based around consent. So we're just all early stages, but enjoying kind of working out those ideas now.
And Donal, Paddy, have you any Shelter, we know you're back on Friday, but anything else, Donal, kind of in the pipeline?
A couple of things that have been put back because of what's been going on. There's a short with a UK director called David Blair that we should be doing sometime in August, and that's kind of still waiting on other stuff to get clarity as to
And Paddy?
Over the lockdown, Simon and I, we were kind of preoccupied with sort of ironing out the creases on the international distribution deals, and then of course the cinema releases and all that kind of stuff. So my plans post cinema release is to sit down and start writing and have a first draft ready to deliver by January the 1st next year for another feature. And when Broken Law becomes a smash hit, I might write a 10-part series and develop it with RT or somebody like that. You never know.
You literally never know. Listen, just to finish up on a kind of lighter note, have you discovered anything? I mean, this has been one of the joys, I have to say, of not having the distraction of kind of walking into work and walking out of work, is actually kind of finding new kind of like films and new talents and stuff on both the suggestions that have come through Facebook and kind of and Twitter and the kind of engagement, but also just because people have been, I think, we've had the time. So I've been watching, like, I love the second series of Succession. I don't know if anyone else saw that. I've been watching some sort of like mad Fassbinder, the kind of later Fassbinder films that I hadn't seen. Not Michael, Werner Fassbinder, Fassbinder. But do you know what I mean? Just mad stuff that's kind of been random, and it's kind of kept me sane to see the kind of some of the glories of the past. Has anyone else discovered anything they want to throw out as something somebody should see?
I discovered Mubi during lockdown.
Yes.
This is fantastic. And then found Celine Sciamma, so kind of went on a binge of her movies, and A Portrait of a Woman on Fire, her newest film, is just like gorgeous. It's so beautiful. And also they have A Woman at War on that as well at the moment,
which is brilliant,
which is incredible.
Yeah, we showed that. There's actually, for Pride on Sunday, I had to put a list together. There's a wonderful film called High Art. It's a Lisa Chodlenko film, a really early Lisa Chodlenko film, which is absolutely brilliant, which I have to say I watched again last week and thoroughly enjoyed it. That's what I mean. It's just really nice to have that space to just watch loads of things that, you know.
Yeah.
Donal, and did you see anything or find anything, discover anything over the last couple of months?
Well, and also kind of dabble in the Criterion collection. And I went on a Vim Vendors kind of deep dive of like Paris, Texas, and Wings of Desire, and
masterpiece.
But then Pain and Glory I watched the other day, and I really enjoyed it. So they're just some things that I've caught up.
They're great.
Yeah.
But I love the way we've all been thinking about kind of like German directors. It's kind of strange where it's kind of come from. Cara, how about you? Did you ever get a break from working on that?
I did.
That's going to never try that film. Go on.
I did. And I was actually going to give the exact same answer that Claire gave there. Celine Sciamma and Mubi, and kind of actually having the time to kind of do a bit of digging around and giving it time as well, because there's some great stuff on there. Like, I mean, I suppose, you know, I've been kind of like, you know, as well as kind of like going back to kind of films like late 70s, early 80s, and kind of like really kind of, I suppose, in the research of like what I'm trying to make now at the moment, of just kind of real kind of radical feminist stuff. There's a film called Born in Flames. I don't know if anyone has seen
Lizzie
it.
Borden's film with Pat Murphy.
Borden,
Catherine Bigelow.
Yeah, it's just brilliant. It's on Vimeo actually now at the moment. And just like really, you know, just really like, you know, where they were quite bold in their approach, and you know, they kind of just did what they wanted. So I kind of like that.
That reminds me,
which is always a good.
One of the kind of core programs of this year's festival was the Women Make Film documentary that Mark Cousins did, which is 14 hours of these incredible filmmakers who, for the most part, were kind of invisible to the canon. And it's funny that so many that Claire and Cara have mentioned are in that documentary. Do you know what I mean? And that you kind of like, it just sends off all these triggers, and it's definitely become a kind of series of kind of, you know, must watch, but also it's just a beautifully made documentary. So you actually kind of just enjoy the kind of beautiful voiceovers and shots from these films. And that's one of the things that I've done, is actually spend tracking down where those people are. And let's finish with you, Paddy. What did you, I mean, I know you've been doing this hilarious thing on Facebook, like a Zelig character who's been involved in all these classic films. But is there any two maybe that I could get you to narrow down as being things you discovered?
Well, Arracht honestly affected me for a few days. Portrait of a Lady on Fire stunned me as well. That was absolutely incredible. Actually, the direction and the editing in Portrait of a Lady on Fire it blew my mind. It was a pitch perfect film, I thought. But I actually done the opposite. I was generally anti-TV series until the lockdown, and I decided, because some people that I've been speaking to were kind of asking me would I be interested in developing something for TV. So I said, out of curiosity, I'll just have a look at, see what's been made, and sort of keep an eye on structure, story development, and that. So I watched, I'm currently watching The Sopranos, and it is brilliant. And I can't wait. I'm going to watch The Wire next. Apparently that's supposed to be good as well. So
there's a theme going there.
I would love to I would love to be able to watch The Wire again for the first time. Like that is, I would pay money to be given that.
That's what everyone is saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've received death threats if I don't watch it. It's supposed to be that good.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. It's been really nice to kind of have these kind of discoveries and the time to then do it. Do you know what I mean? To watch it in that way of once a day or twice, 2 episodes. It's like the sneaky one at lunchtime is the one that makes me laugh. Do you know what I mean? You kind of go, oh, I can't really make it through a day unless I get another one in, you know? Listen, I'm conscious that we've kind of got to just after 8, and I'm kind of conscious that you all have many projects that you should be working on, but I wanted to say a huge thank you to all of you for joining us. Not only, as I said, our Discovery winners, Clare and Dónall and Paddy and Cara, but also everybody out there who's been listening in and sending us in the questions. So thank you very much for that. Just to say that we are going to have maybe a couple more over the next couple of months, but we want to kind of probably keep them kind of informal. So if you join our mailing list, that's the best way to find out. And one thing that I did want to flag, because it kind of was a theme, I think, of tonight's talk, was around going to the cinema and the big screen and the big screen experience, is that Gareth Evans, who directed a film called The Raid that we showed in the Savoy in 2012, one of the great all-time festival screenings. There were 3 standing ovations, 2 in the middle of the film, which I still think is one of the funniest things to ever see. But he's going to he's going to be talking to me about the film, the experience of that particular screening, which he remembers in very, very vivid detail, and what he's been doing recently. I think he was doing Gangs of London, actually, but he's a really interesting, lovely guy. And that is July 14th at 7 o'clock. And I think you can see The Raid and The Raid 2 on Netflix. So I can leave everybody, go off and watch it there. And then the only thing I have to do is, besides thanking everybody who's spoken tonight, is to talk my 2 colleagues who haven't been visible but working very hard, which is for Kate Cunningham and Kristen Olsen, for putting this together. So thanks very much, everybody. You've been absolutely brilliant. Best of luck, and I'll see you all soon, or in a cinema very, very soon. All right, take care.